If someone were to ask me, what are the specific areas that indigenous peoples have made us think about in human rights? The most comprehensive answer I can give is this: breaking the taboo of the dominant, till recently, human rights doctrine and recognizing collective human rights in addition to individual human rights. The UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples is the boldest recognition of collective human rights in international law. It had to overcome a fundamental Western tradition that sees human rights as only individual, namely, the ultimate goal is the protection of the most vulnerable entity in society, the individual human being. This is no doubt a laudable approach that continues and should continue to hold strong in international human rights law and the UN's practice. It is, however, only partial and not complete. The refusal of the Western position to recognize collective or group rights as part of human rights has been highly politicized over the decades. I should highlight here that the opposition to collective rights has not been the case for other parts of the world, as demonstrated in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. The seminal Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 recognized only individual rights. It did not include the right to self-determination. The world was not yet ready to decolonize. However, decolonization and the creation of new states made it possible for the right to self-determination to be added to the panoply of human rights. It became Common Article 1 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights and of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, adopted in 1966. The right of peoples to self-determination is, of course, the boldest collective human right accepted by all states in the era of decolonization, the 1960s and 1970s. Allow me to expose some inconsistencies in the positions taken by states on this issue of individual versus collective human rights. States rarely reveal the real reasons for their positions. Let me expose a first inconsistency as early as 1948. The Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide was adopted by the UN in the aftermath of the atrocities of the Second World War on December 9, 1948, one day before the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Convention defined genocide as, quote, any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such. A, killing members of the group. B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, in whole or in part. D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. And E, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. In other words, the very first human rights treaty of the UN era recognized the right of groups to survive as such and to be protected from genocide, the most odious crime. However, this focus was lost when states embarked after 1948 on an effort to prepare many international treaties and declarations codifying human rights. There are now more than 100 international human rights instruments, declarations, and treaties. It is significant that the only human rights instrument mentioning genocide since 1948 is the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in 2007 in Article 7, showing the awareness of the international community that this abominable crime has been committed against indigenous peoples. The three pillars that frame this course also constitute the three major collective or group rights recognized in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. One, the right to self-determination. Two, the right to lands, territories, and resources. And three, cultural rights. Collective rights are human rights for indigenous peoples because they go to the core of their human existence and dignity. They aim to promote their cultural survival as human groups and individuals within the groups, and often even their very physical survival. The recognition of land rights for indigenous peoples is a primordial condition for their survival, culturally, physically, and spiritually. Their land, however, is vulnerable to external economic and political pressures. It must therefore be protected as a collective human right.